Jonathan Rock, aka J Rock. The session is all yours, sir.
All right. Well, I am so excited to be back with you guys. It's been a minute. I don't This might be the first thing I've done for the community since ATD Ice last year. So, I am glad to be back with you guys. I'm glad to be back with my tribe. And let me get my slideshow going here and let me share it with y'all as well. So, yes, I'm back. I'm here to ruin your reputations. The name of this course is Can I Take It Again? Three things compliance training can learn from video games. And if you don't know who I am, if you're like, who is this guy and why is he talking to me? Um, my name is Jonathan Rock. I am a GMP training specialist for a company called Zoetis. We do animal health. So we're kind of like picture Pfizer for animals. And I am responsible to defend the people that work at my work site from auditors who want to say, you guys prove to me that you're qualified to be working here, right? So I get to do stuff like new employee orientation. I get to do stuff like LMS administration. But one of my favorite things I get to do is e-learning. And Casey, did you want to introduce yourself as well? I don't need to be the whole show here.
Oh,
Do
I'm
they
all
know?
set. My introduction is brief
You're all
and
set?
sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Casey's really awesome. I got to know her through this process, and I've really been having fun and enjoying getting to know Casey. But we have a problem. If you guys are like me and you create e-learning, it's not always the best. Let me show you a little video. This was on Twitter recently, and see if you can suss out what I'm getting at here.
Elon, you can't just call anything you want waste and just get rid of it. You can't do that. Like in the Department of Defense, we do like lots and lots of online training every year that's totally not a waste of time and teaches us great skills that we use every day. And you should not use Doge to eliminate that. You just don't please don't do that. Please. Elon,
Okay.
you can't just
So I think you're getting at what I'm hinting at. How, let me know in the chat, how would you say people feel about e-learning? Go ahead and let me know. Yeah, James Friederman says they hate it. Diane says boring, waste of time. I'm getting yawn emojis. No more. Everyone loves Bloodborne pathogen training. Well, maybe Bloodborne. That's a fun game, right? A bit boring. Here come the eye rolls, says Kara. Wow, I cannot keep up with all of. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh man, Valeria. Skip to the end. Not fun. Boring. Okay. All right. So I'm getting that's coming through loud and clear. Um, Jessica says, loathe entirely. How does that make you feel as an e-learning developer? That's a bit more of a personal question, isn't it? How does it go when you're on the plane and you strike up a conversation with the person sitting next to you and they say, "Oh, what do you do?" and you say, "Oh, I make e-learning." Let me catch up. Unloved, sad, frustrated, no value to my work. Makes me feel like saying challenge accepted. There you go, Kara. That's a good attitude. Diane said, but my course is better. That's right. Don't paint me with that brush. Challenging to have buy-in from the jump. I'm doing bad things to these people, but not willingly. That's pretty funny. Uh, John says, it makes me ponder how to make it more fun and engaging. Right on. Steve says, that's why I have a made-up profession that I share instead. Right. So the problem is, and I mean, guys, I hear you and I feel that because guess what kind of training I get to make? Annual compliance refresher training, right? So the regulations state that we have to do this every year. So they already know it. And they've done it every year if they've been here for long enough. And it's compliance training, which means for the most part, it's what Kara North in the chat would call underwear, right? It covers your butt. It's there to meet a company need, not necessarily a learner need, right? So, that being said, James, I can't hear you. Don't worry about your mic. Um, that being said, all hurt feelings aside, all negative emotions aside, Kara says, you aren't painting me in the best light. What is our goal with compliance training? You guys are like, man, J-Rock's making me type my fingers off. I thought he was just going to be talking. I could eat some popcorn and watch. No, no, no. All of us are smarter than any one of us. And I have missed you guys. I've been away, so I need to hear your voice. Valeria says, protect our business. That's one thing compliance does. Past corporate audits, Stacy says. Yep, yep. But as e-learning developers, our goals, well, it's twofold. On the compliance side of it, we need to, number one, we need to make sure everybody understands the regulations. And I feel like most of this kind of training does that. Understand the regulations, and we test, did they understand? But the other side of it is we want them to comply, right? We want them to behave. We want them not just to understand it, but to apply it in the moment when they have to make those decisions. Allie says, to shed light on risk areas and how we conduct business to mitigate the risks. Exactly right. Raymond says, make sure people know key information so that they behave the right way. We also want just the basics, right? We want to capture attention. We want to be memorable. If you want them to understand, we need to be able to get them to focus on what we're doing and do something that will stand out, that will hook into their mind. Because remember, we're not just trying, this is refresher. This isn't the first time they've had it. Hopefully, the first time they had it was what really cemented it for them and put it into the brain. We want them to be able to recall it. We want to make it easier. Our task is retrieval, right? So retrieval, we want to make things memorable. We want to make them close to hand. So we've got a lot. We got a lot on our plate, and the stuff we're doing just ain't doing it, right? Let me catch up with the chat. Steve says CYA. Yep. Kevin says I'm not an insider trader. Not sure where you're going with that one, Kevin, but I'm glad to hear it. Maybe that's part of the compliance, proving that you're not an insider. And Dana Von Berg says, ensure consistency and the updated correct procedures for carrying out our jobs. Yeah, exactly. So, with all that in mind, we know what our goal is, but we know what all the problems are. And we know that people are not excited to take our CYA training. I want to think about games. Because video games, they suffer from some of the same things that our e-learning does. Is our stuff repetitious? Well, guess what? So is a video game. But there's a difference because the repetitious stuff we do, everyone hates us on the plane. We're the devil. But in a video game, they will repeat the same thing over and over again. It's called a game loop, and it's actually considered fun and rewarding, right? So in the chat, tell me, what is your favorite video game? And as you think about it, what about it makes it good? And are there any mechanics that you can apply from the game to your e-learning? Kara, starting us off with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Oh yeah, that's a good one, especially because you can play it good and evil. I think I know which way Kara plays it. I got a feeling that she's on the Sith side. Diane says Tetris. Kevin says Pac-Man. Ayana says God of War. Steve says Portal. Strong plot, cool game mechanics. Yeah, it's kind of a shooter and a puzzle game at the same, right? Philip says Halo Infinity. I got Halo, a Call of Duty. Haven't played in a while. I always like those with great continuity, says James. Valerie says Invaders. Boyd says Defender. Man, we got some classic gaming up here. Allie says Mario Kart. Stacy, Oregon Trail. Okay, now that's an interesting one because that's not just a game, but that has a learning element, right? James Brown says Space Invaders. Frank Bright, Path of Exile. Tara says Just Dance. Stardew Valley and Hades, depending on the kind of day I've had. Okay, so Benjamin, when you need to chill out and you need something cozy, you go for the Stardew Valley, and then when you need to tear things up, Hades comes on, huh? All right. So my point here is, well, let me catch up. Adam says, Stacy, I used to work, I still use a work system that looks like it's from the Oregon Trail. The green screen. Um, my point is with this is that I don't think there is any fun that is not also learning. I think that learning is what makes things fun. Think about these video games. What do they teach you? They teach you unnecessary skills, right? Like Super Mario Brothers teaches you how to jump, right? How to jump, how far to jump, how fast to be running when you jump, not to go down the hole, not to get in front of a mushroom that's got angry eyebrows, but you want to jump on the mushroom that'll make you bigger, right? Halo. What does Halo teach you? How to move around and shoot, maybe how to crouch in celebration when you've overcome a foe. Some of you know what I'm getting at there. Um, it teaches you unnecessary skills. Mario teaches you how to jump. Halo teaches you how to shoot. Where in the world does Carmen Sandiego teaches you geography? Okay, that was a joke. Anybody with a geography background, I was just teasing. It's not unnecessary skill, but still, my point is that the games teach you something, but they do it in a way that is entices you and pulls you in, and you don't even mind doing the same things. Man, Halo is one thing. I don't know if any of you guys have played Destiny, but like people talk about grinding for that loot, and like they even enjoy grinding, which means doing the same thing over and over again to try to get the outcome that they want, which is also, I think, a definition of insanity if I think about it. So what are some of the things uh Kara says, I know someone who played so much Destiny they earned the t-shirt. I should have worn it. I should have been wearing the t-shirt. I got my Dungeons and Dragons t-shirt on. It says schedules and conflicts. But anyway, um, so I am offering for you. This is not an exhaustive list. I feel like there's a lot that games can teach us that we can borrow and put into our e-learning. But I got three mechanics that I have used in order to make uh, gaming elements apply to learning, e-learning in a way that'll make it memorable and draw the people in instead of just making them roll their eyes and click next as fast as they can. So, a fail state, randomization, and branching. So, before I launch into what each of those are, I gotta warn you, we need to beware. We're like the Roblox guy here walking on the obby course. We're walking a fine line here. On the left side of the tightrope is dull training, right? We're playing it safe. We're doing stuff that people are going to yawn about. On the right side is gimmicky. And what do I mean by gimmicky? What's the warning? What is it that people are afraid of? What is it that makes you even afraid to say the F word in a learning content? And anybody know what the F word? No, actually, don't type all the F words you're thinking of. The word is fun. Why is fun a bad word? Stakeholders hate fun. You know, Steve, I think you're onto something. Uh, yeah, James says so many people think fun isn't learning, and I'm serious. I don't think anything that's fun is not learning. Um, but I do remember when I was starting off in this industry, there was a thing called the Serious Learning Manifesto. And we were all that the Stacy, you put your finger on it. Seen as not professional. People think fun is not serious. People think fun is silly. And some people think fun is only funny. Like not all things that are fun are funny. Some things are serious and fun. Um right. Whenever I see that on LinkedIn, I always like just agree and amplify. I'm like, yeah, that's right. People hate fun. Fun sucks. Right? But if our first task in any learning is to capture attention and focus and reward it, um, we do want to add these elements that make things fascinating. We want to surprise, we want to delight. But the problem with being too gimmicky is, yeah, Raymond says, think it's a distraction. Has anybody read the book by Cami Bean called The Accidental Instructional Designer, where she refers to it as clicky, clicky, bling, bling? And her definition of that, I'm going to paraphrase, hopefully I don't butcher it too bad. Clicky, clicky, bling, bling is when the fun element you've added outshines the message. When the game is so shiny and flashy and attention grabbing that they don't remember the point that you were trying to get across. They don't remember the regulation. They're not thinking of how to behave in the moment. They're just thinking, well, that was kind of fun. That wasted some time. Our goal is not simply to entertain. Our goal is to educate. Sadly, though, we have to do both. In order to educate, we need to entertain to a certain degree so we can capture and reward that attention, right? So everything I'm saying, feel free to challenge me. I'm humble. I'm correctable. Let me have it in the chat if I say anything that's wrong, right? This is all of us processing this stuff together. This is not me coming from on high. And same thing for you guys. If you're not here live, if you are watching this later on the YouTube, let me have it in the comments if I say anything that you disagree with. Or, let me have some encouragement if I do say stuff that's right. But so that warning out of the way, let's get into it. What are these game mechanics? How can we apply them to what we do? And the first one is a fail state. And you guys may recognize the fail. I thought of doing the "you died" from Dark Souls, but I thought, man, this one's way more iconic. Not only have you died, you have died of dysentery. I think we've already talked about Oregon Trail a bit. Um, how do companies feel? How do companies feel about letting players fail in a compliance e-learning? That was an honest question. Yeah. Steve says, "Oof, they're scared of it," right? Um, they, yeah, that they clearly didn't learn. They don't want to associate anything with compliance failing at all, so they don't even want to let you fail in the e-learning. That's right. Failure's not an option. They do not like it at all. Not an option. Unheard of. Waste of money. um, a lot of stakeholders think that letting an employee fail is too discouraging, right? Well, video games aren't afraid to let you fail, right? They let you do it and they provide you a consequence. When we are self-conscious about failure, what does that lead to? It leads to easy quiz questions, right? It leads to um, over explained feedback when you get the quiz question right. It's like, oh, maybe they guessed it by accident. Let's just make sure they know the real thing. And then it's just like a big indigestible wall of text on the feedback. Let me tell you a story about this. Well, let me catch up with the chat and then I'll tell my story. Um, Stacy says, everyone gets an A. Could damage our relationship, says Benjamin. Raymond says, companies sort of depends on the industry. My last role, they focused on CSATs and related training at the expense of everyone going out to check on compliance areas. And I see some laughter in there. Sounds like that might not have gone according to plan. Philip says, pointless multiple choice questions. Frank says, the concern of time spent to succeed. Yeah, false passes and ineffective training, says Gerline. So, I was asked, this is shortly after I got my ability to create e-learning in the first place. And I was asked to create a little module. The leadership at my site was going through fist to 5, which is a way of indicating support for an idea. Like you hold up a fist that's 0 fingers, that blocks it. 1 finger is, I have some, I'm not willing to go along with this, but I have some reservations that could be addressed if we talk it out. 2, 3, all the way up to like, 4 is I support, 5 is not only do I support it, but I want to lead it. So it's like, instead of just voting by raising your hand, aye or nay, you hold up however many fingers you are, and then the conversation can, anybody that's a 3 or 4, you don't really need to talk to them. Anybody that's blocking it, you need to figure out what's going on. And then the other part of it was, I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I had created this thing, and my boss, I said, let's test it out. And he got somebody from the leadership team, and we said, all right, we're going to, no worries, Ayana, catch the replay if you can't get back at us. He wanted to see how they took it. And so we asked somebody from the leadership team, and she sat down, and we didn't say anything. We were just over her shoulder watching how she interacted with it. And can you guys guess what she did? She hammered on the next button like it was a click speed simulator, right? She just sped through all the slides, and then she got to the quiz, and she didn't know the answers to the quiz questions. And she got all frustrated. She's like, I don't know, why can't I pass this? And the whole time she's doing this, my boss is looking at me behind her back, like totally confused, like, what is she doing? What's she doing? So we talked about it afterwards. And he said, he's like, she knew that we were watching her, and she still didn't read any of the slides. She just sped to the quiz. And then she got frustrated because she couldn't pass it. He's like, what should we do? Should we make the quiz questions easier? And I said, no, here's what we do. Let's kill the player. I'm sorry, let's kill the player's character. You don't want to ever kill the player. You want to kill the player's character and make her start over at the beginning of the section. So if you can't pass the quiz, you got to go back and read through the material again. And he's like, isn't that going to take longer? And I said, yes, but here's the thing. Because he was like totally floored that she would do that. I was like, you shouldn't be. I was like, this is how we train people to take these e-learnings, right? We just click speed simulator, and then we give them easy questions, easy quiz questions that don't make them think too much, because then we know they can get it right, and then we can mark them as compliant. And then if something goes wrong, we can say, well, don't blame me. I created an e-learning and she passed the quiz. It must be something else. It must be maliciousness or incompetence or whatever. So the thing is, the most efficient path through is just to spam next and then guess your way through an easy quiz. I would report that to my manager. Don't take it. That's a bribe. That's harassment. Easy A, all done, back to work. And Philip says, well, sometimes you want to kill the player, but yes, you shouldn't. So the fun thing about a fail state is the new efficient way through. The most efficient way through is to pay attention on the slides so that you can answer nuanced and applicable quiz questions. And it teaches your players, okay, the fastest way through is to pay attention so I can get through the quiz. Right? And Kara has some awesome material on quiz questions, by the way. One of the first presentations I ever saw her give was on how to pick good distractors and like just quiz making strategy. So we don't want to dumb down our quiz. We want to smarten up our players, and a fail state is a great way to do that. I've got an example. Let me stop sharing my screen for just a second. Or not sharing my screen, but my slideshow, and see if I can pull up this, what you're looking at here. Let me turn the volume up. This is like the first really super gamified course that I made, and it's called Stronger GMPs. Sadly, for my site, I had been watching a lot of Netflix at the time, and I'd been watching a show called Stranger Things. So I wanted to make a game that was extra. I wanted it to be next level. And I didn't want to have quizzes. I wanted to have monster fights. So this is about halfway through the game. They have gone through what looks like my offices, and they've been finding these good manufacturing practices. And they have just acquired a slingshot. Like the wrist rock. I don't know if anybody's seen Stranger Things, but So you've gone back down the hallway, and now your boss is the guy on the left, and there's a gal named Barb who used to work in Hawkins, and now she's come to work with us. And so you see the e-learning developer's desk has been partially pulled into the floor because he was captured at the beginning in a little cutscene where he was pulled into the backwards. It's not the upside down. Nobody sue. Mine's called the backwards. But you get here and she's talking, about the background. It's a good manufacturing practices training. And so she says, shoot the GMPs that you've collected at the Deviagorgons. They're like Demogorgons, but they're about deviations. Match the GMP type to the question for extra damage, but beware if you miss, they will attack. What are Gorgons? So that might have been a bit much. I just had him crawl up through the rift and slap the gal down. And now it's the quiz. And so on the left is your player, on the right is the monster. And the first thing you have to do is like look at the question and say, what category does this fall under? Is it contamination from people, pests, or environment? And so to whom do you report pest activity? I'm going to guess people for that one. And then I'm going to click on my slingshot to lock and load. And now I get the quiz question. To whom do you report? To a director of maintenance, quality professional, pest control coordinator, or site leader? So I'm gonna get this one wrong to show you what happens. So I say the site leader. Oh, that monster just slapped me for half my health, right? Ventilation is a GMP requirement for the environment. So is it a GMP requirement for Europe only, United States, both, or neither? I'm gonna say both. And I hit. And because I chose the right answer, because I chose the right category, I got a critical hit. So if you don't choose the right category, you got to get through 5 of these, right? But if you get the right category each time, it only takes 3. So if you are sick, I'm going to say pests. And let's get this one wrong, and I'll show you what happens. If you are sick, come in and tell your boss. Call in to tell your boss. Stay home without calling, or come in and say nothing. Whack. So I just lost the rest of my health. You have died. And Bill Myers is trapped, not Will Byers. Don't nobody sue, it's Bill Myers, trapped forever in the backwards. And now they have a choice, start over from the beginning or start at the last checkpoint. So this is how a fail state can really impact. And if they click here, they go all the way back to the beginning of chapter 2, right? So I've got some more examples. I will share those later. We can close this for now. And let me get back to my slides. So any questions about what you just saw? Any ideas as you're thinking about your own e-learning for how you could make it, how you could put a fail state in there, right? Like part of it, well, I'll get to that later. Let me catch up with the chat here. Raymond says, epic. Allison, love the show. Steve says, nice. Okay, but how did you make the animations? Steve, that could be a whole other webinar. I actually created those animations using PowerPoint. This was back in the day. I didn't have any animation software, and my boss told me, use what you have. So that was like total nights and weekends, extra fun time. But we don't need to go into that. All right. So be thinking about how fail states could make your, well, the first thing is when they fail, a lot of people did not like that. A lot of people were surprised that they were going to have to go back and redo a portion that they'd already done. But you know what I did? I earned their respect. I put them on their toes and like, you need to focus on this. This isn't something you can breeze past. Yeah, Steve says, let us know when the animation webinar is. All right. Well, Casey, maybe we can set something up for later. Who knows? Stacy says, I'm currently building a privacy module with privacy defenders. There are scenarios and points based on responses. Perfect, Stacy. That's a great. Scenarios are so awesome for that. We'll get to that a little bit later when we talk about branching. But I love scenarios because it puts you right in the moment and it gives you consequences. And that really speaks to that second part of compliance of how do we impact behavior? How do we get them to comply? Yeah, Kara points out I do have some TLDC appearances where I talk about how I built the characters and stuff. Good point. Thanks for remembering that, Kara. All right, next one, randomization. Right? So we want to surprise people. We want to prevent predictability. Anything that lets the brain tune it out and say, "Oh, I've seen this," "Oh, I can go on autopilot for a while." So I have my example down here. This is a course. This was the second course that I built like that. Usually, so I have to do every year I have to do an annual GMP refresher. And what I try to do is do a normal one and then do a gamified one. And like, because the gamified ones do take a lot of extra work. There's just no getting around it. Um, but this is like 2 years after I did Stronger GMPs. I did this one. It was called Camp Kiliwaka, and it was a full on game. Um, Allie says, "Do you require both regular and gamified, or alternate each year?" The only requirement is that I do one, Allie. Um, I just I get bored doing normal stuff sometimes, and if I have the time, since I know it, since I have a year ahead of time, I know I've got some time. Um, Sometimes I just feel like doing some hyper focus and just going all in on this stuff, right? Mahua says, "Jonathan, I remember your webinar on how to draw characters based on PowerPoint. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Awesome, awesome. Yeah. So for this one, I used a random dice roll. They had to each character. It's a zombie survival horror game. Each character had to answer a quiz question. If they got it wrong, instead of a number coming up on the dice, a zombie came up, and they couldn't get it right. But if they got it right, they still had a chance to fail, because like they could do three things: they could shoot a zombie, they could repair the fence, or they could repair the truck. The truck. And if the truck gets to 100%, they escape and live. If the fence gets to 0 hit points, the zombies come in and eat everybody, right? So it's like, it's not a sure thing. Just because you get the quiz right doesn't mean you can win the game, but you can still get credit for the course if you answer all the quiz questions. Right? So you can lose the game and still get credit. So that's one way of doing randomization. Another way is loot boxes. I don't know. We mentioned the game Destiny earlier. There's also World of Warcraft, that kind of thing. So that can be a hook, is if you know you're doing something for a reward, but you're not sure what it is. So I have another thing to show you for that. So let me just end the show again and pull up Camp Kiliwaka. Now, this is, if we have time, if we get finished sooner, I can like take you through some of the game loop cycles in this one. But when I was creating this one, my site leader at the time really loved a game called Raid Shadow Legends. And so I decided to create a microtransaction. So right here, we've got the Survivor pack. Instead of $4.99, it's 5 slides they have to go through, right? And you get a random reward. Either you can max out your fence's hit points, you can add 3 killed zombies, you can get fireworks on your route, like TNT arrows. So if they shoot one, it'll kill 2 zombies. Or you can get metric tools, which give you a better chance of fixing the truck, right? So they click on the slides, and then these are just normal click nexter, pest management, feral stray dogs, cats, bees and wasps, that kind of thing. And then when they get to the end of it, I created a little loot box, and okay, this time I get collateral damage. It's a single use. And so I close out of that. And now here's my little game where I can move the guy between shooting zombies, fixing the fence, or working on the truck. So what other ways can you think of that randomization can make your games more impactful? Type them in the chat, or just chew on it for a minute. Benjamin says, "Shiny rewards. Monkey Brain likes that." Hey, Benjamin, don't ever let anyone else call you Monkey Brain but yourself. Steve says, "I'm so curious about how the variables are built out for that." Valeria says, even presenting quiz questions in different order each time helps a lot. Yeah, that's right. So if they take the quiz, Valerie, that's a good example. That was one I was going to bring up. If they take the quiz and they get the question wrong, and then they go back and they think, well, I just memorized this one's A, this one's B, this one's C, this one's D, and you randomize it, then it's like, oh crap. Now I have to actually read the question and understand why the answer is correct. Good example. Good example. Let me see. I wrote that down. Is there anything else yeah, it prevents rote memorization. Scramble the order of multiple choice questions. Um, and you can that's almost a way to combine the fail state with randomization. So when they have to go back and do it again, it surprises them. It's not the same thing in a row. All right, man. There's so much to talk about. I feel like time is just slipping through our fingers here. Um, the third part, branching. Now, what do you all know about branching? Do you know what I even mean when I say the word branching? Zach says, I've been thinking about making my course into a mystery theme scenario, detective and training. I love that, Zach. There's a wonderful game called Detective Grimoire and Tangle Tower. You should check those out for detective games. Adam Keeling says, I like using a pool of 30 questions, and if they fail 10 questions, there's a random pool. Okay, so they don't get all the same questions every time. Diane says, choose your own adventure. Be careful saying that, Diane. Kara has gotten a cease and desist. So what do you call it now, Kara? Pick your path or something like that. Isita Drake says, it's hard to develop choice and consequences like a choose your own adventure game. Yeah. Oh, Kara, determine thine own exploit. That's hilarious. Um, Zach says, branching is when a learner has the option to pick their path and each choice creates a new path. That's right. So, um, here's what branching gives you that a linear course does not. It gives you agency. Your player, your user gets agency. And for those of you who know about or want to learn about or think about andragogy, and by that big word, I just mean adult learning, as opposed to pedagogy, which is how children learn. Adult learning, agency is kind of a big deal in adult learning. Putting them in the driver's seat, letting them make the choices, rewards their attention and keeps them invested, right? So, my whole journey into e-learning and what it could be started with a course um, called Encountering Haji Kamal, um, created by Kathy Moore. I don't know if you guys know who Kathy Moore is. She wrote a brilliant book called Map It. But she basically created this scenario for the United States Army. Sadly, it won't work anymore because it was built back in the days of Flash. But basically took a scenario and you had a new lieutenant in Iraq, and he had to, was it Iraq or Afghanistan? I think it was Iraq. His job was to move his troops through an area, but it was an area that was controlled by a guy named Haji Kamal. And so he had to go and have an encounter with Haji Kamal. And so your job was to offer him advice as he went. And so the reason that stood out to me is because I had just taken a compliance e-learning, and I vividly remember I got a multiple choice question. I got the question right, and the feedback was an entire page of indigestible info dump about why I got it right. That's right, because blah 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 blah. Do you think I read that? Do you think I had time for that? My brain said, I got it right. Why did you just put this in my face? And I closed it without reading it. Right? Yeah, that's exactly right, Zach. No, TLDR. Kevin says, eat the dinner. Are you talking about the chai that the guy didn't want to drink and they're like, drink it if it kills you? um, that's from the Haji Kamal. So when I took the Haji Kamal thing, I guessed right the whole way through, and I mean I'm not in the army or anything, but I got the best ending. And you know what I did after that? I was like, can I take this again? I want to try again, and I want to do the worst I possibly can. and I got all the wrong answers and got kicked off his property, right? And I took it a third time to get the mid answer. I wanted to see all the answers, and it struck me that that was the same thing. That the designer of that original e-learning that I did not have time for, the reason they put that in info dump is because they wanted to cover their butt and say, just in case he guessed, I want him to go back through and read all this so I know that he knows it. And I didn't have time for that. But when it was in a game, I wanted to see all the right and the wrong. I wanted to see every part of it because it was just fun and I was curious. And so I got the duplicated explanation through play and enjoyed it that I didn't have time for in the e-learning. And so that, I mean, that running across that choice-based scenario was so formative for me. And another great one like that I think you can still take is called Broken Coworker, where it's like an HR course for how to deal with somebody who's crossing boundaries in the workplace. So awesome examples of branched path scenarios. What you see here on your screen is from that second course. Now, when I created that Stronger GMPs course, it was so divisive at my site. The people who worked in an office and had headphones and had time loved it. They said, "Oh man, why can't they all be like this? I wish I could. I really enjoyed playing that, and good job." And my head got huge, just swole up walking down the hallway. Yeah, I did it. Everybody loved my stuff. I'm so creative, right? And then the other side had the exact opposite reaction. There was a guy named George stopped me in the hall and said, "I know what you were trying to do. Never do it again." He said, "I got people out there on the line. They've got lunch, they've got break. That's when they get to sit down and do their training. And if you're going to kill them with a monster and they have to start over, that's time that I need them to get back on the floor." Right? So that kind of took the wind out a little bit. That kind of brought me back down to earth. And I realized, okay, this has to work for everybody. So when I created the next one, Camp Kiliwaka, well, yeah, that's a good point, Kara. I'd argue they should be given time not on their lunch and break to do training. That's a whole other conversation, but guess what? She's not wrong, people. People should be given adequate time to get their training done. But what I did, well, it wasn't just that though. There was also people that just did not grow up playing video games, didn't have the same vocabulary when it comes to where to click and what to do next, right? So when I created my next one, Camp Kiliwaka, I decided to give them a choice. I recreated George in the that's me on the right. I recreated George in the in oh, what's it called? It's not Powtoon. What's the one with the donut faces, Kara? Vion. Thank you. I recreated George and Vion. He's the guy on the left, and he comes stomping on right when I'm setting the stage, and is like, "Is this another one of those stupid Jonathan Rock Stranger Things courses?" And so they have a little argument. But basically, I gave them a blue pill and a red pill. If they take the blue pill, they follow George and just have the normal e-learning. They got all the slides. I built the course in tandem. They got all the slides. They got a quiz. They can do it. But if they click the red one, then they play my little game and we see how deep the rabbit hole goes, right? So right off the get-go, you can use branching to give them an off-ramp so they don't have to do the extra fun one, right? But branching is, I like it because not only, as we talked about before, can you use it to display consequences for their actions instead of just you got it wrong, here's the right answer. Like they have to see what it leads to, but you can even give them delayed consequences where a decision they make up front doesn't come back to bite them until down the road. And that helps them put it all together. And again, we're trying to simulate the decisions they're going to have to make in the real world, hopefully in a way that's quirky and fun enough that they remember it. And you can even do things like in the Stronger Things one, I have it start off in someone's house. And like when they get to the sink, there's a little thing about brushing your teeth before you come into work, right? Now, you shouldn't have to tell people these things, but you kind of do for some people. And I was hoping that by having that little data point show up at the sink in their bathroom in the game, that when they're at their actual sink, they'll remember my little silly sink in the game and be like, "Oh yeah, I need to brush my teeth before my shift," right? So, so we can combine branching with the fail state to give them a good, a mid, and an awful ending, and give them those delayed consequences to where they don't see until the end which bucket they wound up in, right? All right. So coming to the end of my slides here, I wanted to give us enough time for Q&A and stuff. How do we combine them all? How could we use all three? And I don't necessarily know the answer to this. I'm throwing it out to you guys. Wrestle with these ideas. Think about your own e-learning. How could you combine randomization, branching, and a fail state to make your learning just unforgettable? What about this? Picture this. You're taking the e-learning, you hit a fail state. Ah, crap, now I got to go back. Womp womp. Right? Oh, now I got to redo this because I didn't get the quiz right. This is going to be boring. I already read this. But then, boom, they hit a randomized branch. Right? What? A new path with the same information presented in a different way. Maybe this time it sticks, right? So, I mean, again, that's extra work up front. But what a surprise if you fail the quiz, it tells you you have to jump back. You jump back and you think you're going to see the exact same slides. But now you see something else that describes it in a new way. And then you hit the same quiz. But maybe by having gone through it twice, it's more sticky than if I just wasted your time to punish you for not getting it right. You know, that's a randomized, that's a branching, that's a fail state. Any other ideas? Zach says, I'm thinking that it would depend on the topic and the end goal for the training. That would determine how the gamification or no gamification is going to play out. Right. Frank says, we have a test that they can take, but only get one chance before having to go through the training. Or they can go directly to the training, and the training has more activities that they have to do. I love that, Frank, especially with refresher compliance training. If they can ace the quiz right up front, it's like, oh, they still got it. They still remember it. We can skip all that other stuff. We can get them on to the next thing. But if they don't, if they bonk it, then they get the reinforcement. Because the quiz is really the part that forces them to haul it back out of their subconscious. They should, if it's compliance refresher, especially compliance refresher annual training, there should have been a good, well-designed learning before it, right? So we come to the final slide here, and I want you guys to do this for me. And I want even if you're not live and you're not able to interact with the chat as it was happening live, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel later, everybody do this. Just get some scratch paper, and I want you to write down what are the game elements that keep you hooked? How can you use them to impact retention and even simulate compliant behavior? So think about the stuff we talked about, the three that we talked about, but also what are some other mechanics that you know from your own gaming? And I mean, this is not an exhaustive list. As I've said, what else can you do? And I am curious to hear what you come up with. Because I know that all of us are smarter than any one of us, and you guys are some amazing creative people. You are my tribe. So I want to hear what ideas this thing has sparked, what gets your juices flowing, and how you are going to use this on your own stuff. And if you want to let me know, I mean, you could just do it just for you, but if you want to let me know, there's my LinkedIn on the bottom. I am happy to connect with any of you guys. Just say, hey, I was in that session. Here's my ideas. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. And yeah, that's what I got for you. What questions do y'all have about what we've been talking about? Oh, Valeria says, can you repeat the questions? Yeah, I got some of this stuff written down. Write down ways that you could use any of these three game mechanics or even other mechanics that you've come across your own gaming on your own compliance e-learning. How are you going to take the hope? I mean, we didn't have enough time for me to like start breaking down. Here's how I build this in Lectora. Here's how I build this in Storyline or something like that. But hopefully I got the inspiration out there. And when you see what's possible, it gets the wheels turning and you come up with stuff you might not have otherwise if you hadn't watched this. Right on.
I'll
All right.
have
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for being with me again. I missed you. It's good to be with my tribe. And did we have anything else to tell them about, Casey?
Yeah, well, I saw one question that we missed from Al again, and he had to jump, but I want him to hear it for the recording. He
Okay.
said, "Can you build the understanding slash recall with a formative assessment?"
I'm not sure what he means by formative. You guys, you're all smarter than I am. I'm just the hardworking schlub. um, I'm gonna say yes. Somebody in the chat, tell me what do you mean by a formative assessment?
Oh, and he had to
Is that
jump.
like a is that like a quiz?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I bet he would be happy to expound. That's a
Oh
bummer.
yeah, no worries. I don't mind being put on the spot. I'm learning just like the rest of us. Assessment during the instruction. It's an educational term, they say. As he
Oh,
just says, formative assessment is a continuous process of assessing student learning to inform both teaching and learning throughout a lesson or a unit. Well, that sounds good. I'm gonna say yes, do that. Alrighty.
I love
Um,
how you're so casual and cool, J Rock.
well, yeah, there's plenty of experts around, guys. Trust me, I'm just a hardworking schlub. I figured a few things out. I'll share those with you, but I got a lot to go. I got a lot to learn. I do want to share one more thing with you guys. Let me share my screen one more time. Um, and that is the game that I created for Camp Kiliwaka was based on this print and play. Um, it's just a one player print and play tabletop game. So it's free. It's $0. So I'm gonna put that in the chat, and I'll open it up so you can see. It's basically fits on one A3 page of a PDF, and like here's where it tells you here's where you put your zombies. You successfully kill a zombie on a roll of 3 or better, and you keep tally of those. Here's what your barricades HP are. Every zombie that survives smacks it for 1 HP each round. And then here's the car fix. And when it gets to 40% fixed, 2 zombies spawn. When it gets to 70% fixed, 3, and then 90 or 104 zombies spawn. So all of the rules are right here. I just decided, you know what? Can I recreate that in a learning experience? And so right on. Formative says for learning. Summative is of learning, is the way that I remember it. Rock on.
Awesome tips.
Okay.
You guys, be sure to grab that link in the chat. This is a one-time offer.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, J Rock. This has been so good. This might win an award for one of the most interactive sessions we've had.
Right on. Well, I really enjoy everyone coming out for this. This would have been really weird if it was just me and Casey talking to each other. So we appreciate your interest. We appreciate your good questions and your comments. And I think it's fun to learn from everybody involved. And I hope we can keep going on together.
Absolutely. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you so much, everyone.